Very warm welcome to our webinar, Dealing with Uncertainty as a Resource Manager. I'm Nora, your host for today. I work as a transformation consultant, helping teams design better, more meaningful ways of working, ones that are purposeful, flexible, and deal with uncertainty effectively. And we would love to check in with all of you who are here today by asking you to take a brief moment of reflection, checking in with your own relationship to uncertainty. How much uncertainty have you dealt with this week already so far? Give it a quick rating from 1 to 10, 1 being smooth sailing, the plans held, priorities stayed put, 10 representing all hands on deck, shifting demands, changing capacity, unclear priorities. Just check in with us by sharing your number in the chat. And whatever it is welcome. It doesn't need to be a beautiful one. Okay, first responses coming in. So we've got a 7 from our panelist, Kim. We've got an 8 from Lisa. We've got a few 6s. We've got 1 9, so that's very much all hands on deck by Cheryl. Another 8, a 5, so Laura feels more in balance. Nice, and some more 8s. Beautiful. Thank you all very much for checking in. Perhaps and hopefully this webinar will help to bring in a bit more balance and provide some inspirations for how, if you're more on the upper scale of 8 or 9, you can deal with it gracefully. Oops. And I will stop sharing my screen for now. And just, give you a little bit of an introduction. So this session is part of Run's Leap webinar program, where we spotlight bold ideas, authentic experiences, and also share practical strategies from our lived experiences. And hopefully through sharing those stories and authentic experiences, we can help elevate the resource management profession, grow and leap together. And Run is sponsoring this webinar. It's a purpose-built tool to make capacity and resource planning smarter, faster, and more human, allowing us to deal with uncertainty more gracefully. We will use our time to mostly dive into questions that we have lined up for you. But we also want to hear from you when it comes to uncertainty and your roles, perhaps in the space of operations or resource management or related professions. What are your current challenges and struggles, and what questions might emerge through our conversation? So we'll use the last 10 to 15 minutes for your questions and answers. So as you listen along, feel free to capture anything that pops up in the Q&A section of Zoom webinar. Also feel free to use the chat to share any thoughts, any inspirations, any, perhaps advice of how you have dealt with this topic. That would also be very interesting to hear. And now it's my absolute pleasure to introduce a wonderful panel to you. First up, we've got Kim Randall, Director of Enablement at Clarivate. Kim brings over 20 years of experience in leadership, talent development, and organizational effectiveness. She's also an executive coach, deeply believes that the highest calling of leadership is unlocking the potential of others within teams. So, Kim, it's an absolute delight to welcome you here for the second time on the Leap stage.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Nice. And next to Kim, we've got Laura Dean Smith, Director of Business Operations and Project Delivery at BioVit. And Laura began her journey way back as being the first resource manager within her organization, and then went to build an entire resource management office from scratch. And through her journeys of transforming organizations and elevating operational effectiveness, she has grown into a strategic and operational leader, bringing powerful insight to both the practical and also the mindset shifts, especially when it comes to dealing with uncertainty. So, Laura, thank you for being back the fourth time already.
Yes, yes. I love being here with you,
Oh,
Nora.
we love
You're
having you
fun.
so much. So, as we dive into our beautiful topic now, I want to kick off with the one of the key findings that we have uncovered in our latest State of Resource Management survey report conducted run by run. And interestingly, when we asked what currently limits your ability to operate resource management at a more strategic level, the number one response was unpredictable demand. 61% of all respondents, we had over 100 resource management and operational professionals respond. So about 61% said it's the unpredictability of demand. So already here we can see that by dealing with unpredictability in more effective ways, we can unlock a whole lot of value, especially the strategic lens and becoming a more valuable partner to the business. Hence, we're super excited to talk about this topic today. Also, the check-in really motivated me on top of that, seeing so many high numbers. Good. So let's kick right into things. I'm really curious, Kim, could you share what types of uncertainty usually are present inside a business? And then Laura, you can basically add your perspective from the resource management level. What are the types of uncertainties that are most dominant when it comes to resource management?
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of uncertainty that we can encounter. Anything that's completely out of our realm of control, like world events, economic changes, um, supply chain problems with resourcing. There's just a variety of things that are on a global scale that can introduce some uncertainty. There are things then that are more local to us that can impact us that we may or may not have control over. Things like new clients leaving, organizational changes, mergers and acquisitions kind of activities, technology changes, AI.
Mhm.
Everybody loves AI these days, or loves to hate it. Take your pick. We have regulations constantly changing and evolving in different environments. Um, and then more local company policy, um, company dynamics, company culture can change and add an element of uncertainty. Leadership changes, project owner changes, associates joining or leaving for whatever reason. So reactions from our key stakeholders. How are our stakeholders viewing the work that we're doing, and how do they want us to change the work that we're doing? Or, so Laura, help me out. Any there's
Yeah.
there's
And
just so many different ways that we can add uncertainty into our environment. And certainly if there's any kind of uncertainty that's come into your organization or to your world and you'd like to drop it in the chat of something that we might want to
mm,
grab, feel free.
yeah, 100%. And already just by listening to you before Laura, you jump in, I can feel that this is life, really. Life is all about changes and it's a dynamic process of constant adaptation, right? So it's the new normal, really. So it's not about avoiding it. We can't. Life is this moving, flexible, breathing, changing entity. So yeah, it's really important to embrace that, right? Life is change and uncertainty. So thank you, Kim. That was already extremely, enriching in terms of everything can be uncertain, pretty much. Laura, you have this incredible wealth of expertise from the resource management lens. As a resource management professional, operations professional, which of these uncertainties have felt most challenging or have been most dominant from your experience?
From my experience, the uncertainties. So going back to the survey from Run, the unpredictable demand,
Yes.
not knowing what's coming in, when it's coming in, what is going to be needed, not having clear visibility to that, and being able to plan ahead about it, as if to be proactive in that. That is gonna you're constantly shuffling in real time, and that takes a lot of time, because as resource managers we need to communicate a lot too. So every single time there's a change that you're dealing with, then you're also dealing with the communication of it. And then if you don't know what the next change is going to be, or the next thing that's going to come up, or the next new project, the next new piece of demand, it just adds to that feeling like you're on a mouse wheel, as by not having that visibility to the demand that's coming in, so, or even if there's changing demand within the projects that are ongoing,
Yes.
as maybe there's been a change in something that is active.
Yeah.
um, the second thing I think it really impacts us as resource managers and operations professionals is business priorities changing. And that can come for a variety of reasons, whether it's market changes or leadership changes, or culture changes and stuff. But when the business priorities shift, then that also means that our project prioritization is going to shift. And so where we might have had a clear view of where our different projects that we have in our portfolio that we're staffing are, where they fall on that list of priorities. When the business priorities change, we then have to change all of the prioritization, as of which is then going to change all of the ways that we're reacting to it, or all of our plans that we might have made. And we are not we always want to have a seat at the table. We always want to be in the room, but we're not always in the room. So sometimes when it comes to these, where it's really uncertain as what it's going to be, because we're not hearing it firsthand either. Um, so I would say, Nora, in my experience, those two
Mhm.
are the biggest.
Yeah.
And then there is, our job is like, we're puzzle masters. So there's always uncertainty. There's always ways we're trying to rearrange the
Yeah.
different pieces that we have to make it all fit and make it all work. And there's uncertainty in so many areas in our jobs as well as in life, and stuff. But I would say those, if you ask me, the two biggest in my
Yeah.
experience, the two biggest.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And something I also took away from our prep calls was data quality, especially as you're dealing with so much data from the entire organization, having that unique opportunity to tap into all these different data pools, right? If the data is not of high quality, it just imposes a risk that what you're looking at is not correct, and then it screws up your understanding of what is currently happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. I'm dealing with that right now in my current role of trying to, we just moved into a system for the first time instead of doing things manual in Excel.
Hmm.
I've been here for less than 2 months. Just moved into a system, and there is a lot of uncertainty in the data,
Hmm.
um, there. And so trying to embrace how bumpy it is going to be for the next little while we like narrow in and improve that data. And I keep trying to tell the teams that I'm working with that, like, it's important that the data quality is correct. That way we know that if there are other issues that need to get addressed within the
Exactly.
business,
Yeah.
that's separate. That's not that the data isn't right, but we
Yeah.
can't see that if
Yeah.
we know the data is not
100%.
reliable.
Nice. So now we've had a first peek into the world of uncertainty. Kim, as an executive coach, you're extremely talented, in my opinion, of basically to help people deal with this moving. world. Let's start to dive into what we can actually do. So, what from your experience has been most helpful to individuals, leaders, in navigating this new norm?
I'd say there's two main things that help, whether you're a leader or you're an individual contributor. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say that is your mindset and your communication skills. I think those are the two very most important things to deal with uncertainty. When we talk about the mindset that we need in this particular role as a resource manager, we have to be problem solvers. I mean, that's our job. We have to solve the problem of what pieces go where to make things work within our business priorities. I mean, that's the job. So I think being able to approach, no matter if you're a leader or if you're an individual contributor, the fact that this is a solvable problem. And starting there, the solution may not be the ideal one, but we can solve the problem, and accepting that it's not always going to be perfect every single time, and accepting that things are going to change every single time. And just accepting that as part of your day to day, and entering in your morning with, this is going to be a solvable problem and this is going to be a solvable day and we can do this, is really important. And so for my leaders out there, I would encourage you, model that for your team. For those of you that are not people leaders yet, model it for everybody else. Approaching it with a positive attitude of, this is a solvable problem, just allows everybody in the space to look at what you've got to work with and come up with, and be able to brainstorm, be able to come up with those solutions. And that just makes everybody have a more pleasant experience at work. And let's face it, we face a lot of time in our jobs, and we want this to be as productive and as pleasant as we can. And then communication, so important. For my leaders out there, communicating your priorities, communicating the business priorities to your people, communicating what some of the struggles are and how we're going to overcome those, super important. For my individual contributors out there, asking questions. If you have something new thrown in your lap and you're not sure what to prioritize, that is an appropriate conversation to have with your leadership. It is okay to say, I have projects 1, 2, and 3 that I've just been assigned to. I don't know which one is the top priority. Can you help me clarify that when project 4 gets introduced? That's actually a really great conversation to have with your leaders, because you probably don't have all of the information in what's important to the business. And so making sure that you and your leader are aligned will allow you to focus, which allows you to be more efficient. Multitasking has its time and place, but a lot of times that helps us lose our focus and it doesn't allow us to get things done that we need to get done. So having that conversation can help with focus and achieving your goals, and making sure you're aligned with both your leader and the broader business priorities. So again, problem solving mindset and communicating up the ladder, down the ladder, so important for success across the board.
Love it. Maybe just one follow-up question, Kim, before Laura, I would love to hear from you. You mentioned to model vulnerability and actually sharing that I might not have the answer right now. That's tough. We're not trained for this level of openness and vulnerability. How can we embrace more vulnerability, and how can we make it something safe? Because we also don't want to overshare or over open when, yeah, things might not be as safe. So can you help us out? What's the right approach here?
I don't think there's any one right approach to that, to be honest with you. I think that it depends, it's very situationally dependent. If you are in a situation where you're the leader and you're uncertain, it is absolutely okay to say, I don't know the answer to that. I will get back to you tomorrow. I will get back to you by the end of the week. Which again allows your team to see You don't know everything, and maybe there's some missing data that you need to acquire before you make a decision. And it allows that to be okay. There are other situations where, as leaders, we may need to make a decision with less than all of the facts. And that is okay as well. And then if something doesn't quite go as planned, okay, I made this decision based on this data. Now that we have this new input, we need to pivot. And so it's not really, oh my gosh, I made it, you can say I made a mistake because I didn't have all this data, or I made a mistake. We do it, we're human. I think admitting the mistake and moving on into how we're going to correct the mistake is a really important, no matter who you are, leader or not. The most important thing, I think, is being transparent to the ability that you have. As we know, sometimes leaders have information that we can't share with everybody. And if there's going to be, for example, a reduction in force, I may have to make decisions that are very impactful. However, I can't share why with my team, but I can reassure my team that I'm doing things from a place of information and from a place of what's best for the team and what's best for the business. So again, by sharing vulnerability, I don't cry on the phone call. What I mean is give as much information as you can. Be willing to admit when you need to take time to make a decision. But I think the most important thing is, and part of that being vulnerable and being open, is following up. If you promise people information by tomorrow, by the end of the week, if you need more time, you need to tell them that, but don't leave them hanging. And that's where we can create that safe space, Nora, that you were talking about, of I'm struggling to make a decision, or I'm not getting what I need to make a decision. I'm keeping you informed of the status when I promised. And so that keeping the promise builds trust, and that builds that safe space.
Yeah, I really want to highlight that. I think transparency is such an enabler of trust, right? It just helps me see what is happening in your world. And then, of course, I can then start to have empathy. And yeah, transparency is such a connector. So thank you
It
for
is. And
sharing that.
empathy is important too. I mean, we can all be empathetic and still do our jobs and still deal with uncertainty, and we can help each other through difficult situations.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So thank you, Kim, for kicking us off. Laura, I've seen you nodding a lot, so I would love to hear from you quite practically. If you think about maybe the last 2 months, even starting a new role, being in a completely new environment with new people, facing lots of uncertainty on many different levels. From your experience, what really helps you and what really helped others to deal with uncertainty effectively?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I was nodding so emphatically throughout, because like everything that Kim was saying about mindset and communication and everything, like, yes, yes to all of that. And so, kind of putting it in like terms for me, and then for like, being a resource manager in our organizations. Yeah, like I just started this role almost 2 months ago. And lots of uncertainty. If like, I don't know the people, I don't know the leaders, I don't know the business priorities, I don't know, we're trying to work in this new system that I didn't choose. And like, I have to figure that out. And I don't know what's good in the data and what's not. And so, huge learning curve in there. Going back to what Kim said of having a problem solving mindset, is that like, this is a solvable problem. Keeping that type of a mindset going is absolutely something that I keep in mind. It's really how I operate, I think, in my personal life as well. Is this is a solvable problem. One of my isms, is that I use a lot, is the answer is yes. The question is, how do we do it? Which doesn't mean that you always do exactly what somebody wants you to do, but it is about that, like, yes, we can do this. Yes, we can solve that problem. Yes, we can meet that need. Yes, I can learn this new business. Yes, I can talk to people when, I'm not always the most extroverted, outgoing person. I can meet new people and start forming relationships and building trust. And, in my new role, a lot of what I have been doing is looking at some of the other leaders that I'm working with and repeating that to them. This is a solvable problem. Like, we can fix that. We can, like, yes, I hear you. And that's where, like, the empathy comes in. I hear you, but, like, this is solvable. So that's been, I think, the mindset has really been what has helped me through times of uncertainty. And part of that, and just putting in, like, practical terms too, part of that is a little bit of, like, a buckle down, as if it's sort of when things are really uncertain. There's a bit of a buckle down that you have. It's not all like, this is solvable and whimsy. It's no, let's find where the solution is here. Like, let's get elbows deep and let's find where the solution is. So, I don't want us to get too caught up in the, like, positive and stuff. Like, it really is coming in there with, like, I'm going to get to work on this. And then the communication. So both, like, as we're talking, like, I was thinking through being a resource manager, and when there's been times of uncertainty in the business and I'm really feeling the stress, I know that all of my stakeholders are also feeling the stress. I know that each of the business leaders that I am supporting are also freaking out. They're freaking out about the same things that I'm freaking out, but, like, just from their lens and their perspective and how it's impacting them and their work. And so they will often come very panicked, sometimes allowing the emotion to take charge in themselves. And that can also be another area of uncertainty, as, like, what am I walking into? What is the, like, what's the reaction going to be? What is somebody going to dish out at me today? And in there, just adding on to what Kim was saying about communicating both up and down in those conversations, communicating that, yes, you understand, you feel it too, you see it, like, you're on the same page of, like, and sort of a, like, we're in this together. It's also another way of showing empathy to your stakeholders of, like, hey, like, I see it, I understand. You can take that mindset of, like, let's get to work, let's find the solution here, and you can apply it to those conversations with them. And just being very transparent is where we can circle back to that transparency and that honesty, being transparent of, here's what I'm seeing. Here's some of the recommendations that I have, and showing it to them. Like, as some people, you might have to walk through more steps than others, but showing it to them, in a sense, show them your cards. As don't be afraid. Like, show them your cards when it comes to, like, what the data is, what the recommendations say, what you're advising and why. Like, still be strategic in how you need to bring them along in that conversation. Don't show them all of it, but, like, show them what they need to know. Show them that, like, and that builds confidence in them that they will have towards you. And it will also build your own confidence that, like, this is solvable. This is the reality of where we're at. You can be honest about what we can maybe address today and what you might need to get back to them about tomorrow. And then follow up, just like Kim said. But, that's that communication and that transparency and that honesty and that empathy is important when we're working with our stakeholders. And it's been something that I've used even starting this new role, as like with this new company. I'm introducing a whole lot of new process to them, and needing to, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's uncertainty they feel towards me because they're like, oh, I don't know what this Laura person is going to come in and do. And there's uncertainty where I don't necessarily know what the reaction is going to be all the time. Or I know we need to do steps A and B, and I'm not really sure what we need to do after that yet. And so there's uncertainty for me there too. And so having that, again, that mindset, that communication, that honesty, that transparency, those have all been tools that I've kept in my pocket over the past 2 months, and that, have also served me well when I've been in resource management positions and in those resourcing discussions.
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I think what I'm really hearing from you is to rediscover our humanness, right? The more we can come from a place of truth and yeah, connection, the more we can feel safe, at least in the relationship we have with one another, and we feel stronger because we can count on each other. So I love your approach, and yeah, starting a new role and looking for empathy in your stakeholders, looking for connection, relationship building, so that you can work together as a team. I think is very very necessary and helpful. So thank you. I'm really curious, Kim. We talked a little bit about types of uncertainties. We talked about priorities of the business might change. How can we use business strategy priorities when it comes to uncertainty? How can they be helpful in guiding us and perhaps to prioritize our actions? Maybe you can think of a moment where this has been helpful and share that moment with us.
Absolutely. I know, especially if there's a restructure, let's take that as an example. And we've got a new president comes into your company. Have been through that many, many, many times. And this new president has an agenda. And so when we have that happen, it's very uncertain. And so number one, we need to find out what our new president's priorities are.
Yes.
Number two, I think we need to keep in the back of our minds always that a lot of times when a new president is brought into a company, or a new leader, any leader is brought into a company, there's a reason. Sometimes it was the previous one retired. Congratulations, enjoy your retirement. Sometimes it's because the business was not performing the way that stakeholders wanted it to perform. And so that reason of bringing in a new person with new priorities is for the overall benefit of the company. And I mean, let's face it, we don't work for free, we work for the company. And so it's hopefully for our personal benefit as well. So one of the things I always tell my people, especially when they're dealing with uncertainty and dealing with change, and in Laura's case, she's implementing new policies and procedures to try to improve the business and try to meet our goals, is I always say, assume positive intentions.
Mm-hmm.
We are all trying to work toward the same goal. So if we assume positive intentions, when we're given these new priorities, they may not align with what we thought was important. And I hope that you work in a place where you can express that concern to your leaders. And when your leaders, try to tell you or try to explain to you why, listen with an open mind. And again, they may have information you don't. Happens all the time. They're trying to be as transparent with you as they can, hopefully. And if we as employees can assume positive intentions, we can voice our opinions, we get feedback, whether it's in agreement with us or not. We need to understand what the business priorities are and be able to pivot to make those priorities come to life. And that can be really hard, especially if we don't believe that that is the way to go. And I know Laura and I have been in that situation before together, and had to work through that. And it's challenging. It's challenging because what you think is right is not necessarily what the company thinks is right. I think a couple of things there. Again, be open and communicate with your leader, then get on board and do your best to work through bring your ideas, bring your innovation. But as long as we assume positive intentions and that we're working for the benefit of the customer, we're working for the benefit of our company, we've got to work under the premise that good things will happen. So that's a very uncomfortable situation to deal with, and it's a very uncertain situation to deal with. But that's part of working in a corporate environment, is dealing with those kinds of things, and you will deal with them your entire career. So I think, again, the mindset is really important, both in I can solve this problem, and the mindset is really important in I'm assuming positive intentions unless proven otherwise. And then that's a whole nother ball of wax to deal with.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. And I think like listening to you, if we have a strong strategy and priorities in place, it's just so helpful for everyone
It is.
because as you're faced with many different options and paths you could take in this fog of uncertainty, it provides direction. What are we trying to achieve collectively as an organization? Why are we here? And what is in best service of our purpose, right? And then it just helps to assess different options. So yeah, just underlines the importance of strategy for everyone to make the best decisions.
And also meaningful contributions. And I think if you
Yes.
can make a meaningful contribution toward that strategy, that just is personally fulfilling in
Oh,
what you
yes.
do every day. And that again, that sense of accomplishment, that sense not only personal accomplishment, but also accomplishment within your organization is really important to your well-being. So like I said, communication is really important. And then how you frame your day, how you frame your mindset is equally important.
Amazing. Laura, I would love to hear from you in a moment. I just want to call out that now would be an ideal moment to capture any questions that you might have. Maybe you can take a moment to reflect on what is currently a challenge for you, what uncertainty are you facing, and how could you leverage these two brilliant minds now that we're here talking about this topic. Um, Great. And Laura, I know that you have been in the resource management space for such a long time. So could you maybe share one or two very practical methods, strategies, ways of dealing with uncertainty when it comes to the day-to-day being a resource manager?
Mhm. Um, yeah, so let's see, a couple, one or two, man, Nora. I I would say probably the biggest one is being flexible. There's we are process is important. Don't get me wrong. Governance is important. Um, we need to make sure that we're following, like, processes are in place for a reason. As of assuming that your organization hasn't overdone process. But it is important, and governance is important, but there is flexibility in there. And so when there's uncertainty, um, don't be so rigid in how things need to get addressed. Be flexible, be open. Hear other people's ideas. They might be able to contribute some of their own helpful thoughts as to how you can solve your puzzle problem that the uncertainty is creating for you. Um, so, and then also with that, like, especially in times of uncertainty, sometimes really big, like as Kim was saying, with leadership changes or acquisitions or big reductions in force or things like, again, looking at things from like being flexible in your mindset. Maybe normally your your utilization forecast, looking out, you can look out 3-6 months. I mean, that's what we're all aiming for most of the time, is be able to predict 3 to 6 months out at least. During those times of uncertainty, be proud, not just okay, but be proud, feel good about maybe just being able to look out 6 weeks. Because that's as far as what your site and the business trajectory is allowing you to see. Be okay and feel good about something being good enough, not perfect, because you might not have all of the details. You might not know what's coming tomorrow. So during those times of very, very high uncertainty, be be flexible in how you're measuring what's good. Be flexible in how you're measuring what is organized, like what's and stuff, and know like it's not going to be perfect right now. The other thing is that, like you said, one or two, so I'll take the two. The is fall back on the data. Data is key. Reliable data is key. I understand there could be uncertainty in the data. We've talked about that earlier. Unpredictable demand data, is stuff like data quality issues. I shared some of my own. But always go back to the data. It gives you a way. There's a lot of heightened emotions during uncertainty, and so if you can fall back to the data, that is going to give you an objective framework to work through your problem, to work through the uncertainty, and to bring others along with you through that uncertainty, without it feeling personal. And so fall back on that data, fall back on data-driven decision making, and so show people the data, have it out there, be transparent about it, model how to make data-driven decisions. Come back to them with recommendations that are based in data. Use data language. Well, because with the data saying this, it means I'm going to recommend these things. It's going to have this impact on the data. Frame your recommendations around the data. Keep it objective, for yourself and in the conversations with others. And the last thing I'll say, Nora, and then you can take it. Resource managers are my favorite people. I really believe that we are, yes, I really believe that we are such a unique set of professionals that we marry two things that are not often go together. These interpersonal relational skills, the ability to build trust, the ability to build relationships, up and down an organization. It's like our ability to tap into that, with in those interpersonal relationships with others within an organization is unique. And we are very data driven, and we like data, and we like analysis, and we like working with the data, and we find the data really interesting and really cool. And, we like looking at it in different ways. And, we love charts, and we love dashboards, and, and like those two things coming together is not something that you typically find in most professionals. Most professionals are usually more firmly in one or the other, not 100%, but just more firmly in one. And resource managers, we really have this beautiful blend of the two, which does make us very uniquely positioned to deal with uncertainty and also guide others and model for others and bring others along with us through the uncertainty too. So I just wanted to make sure that I think we are really unique and really special individuals and professionals in this field.
Yeah, that's very comforting. And I would agree that both qualities definitely add to the skills needed to deal with uncertainty effectively. So that's helpful to have it, displayed like that. So thank you for that. Kim, I remember in our prep conversations, we talked a little bit about the agile mindset and how it is very well equipped to deal with uncertainty. So I would love for us to dive a little bit into that. What does agile mean to you? Very simple terms. And how has it been in service of for you, when it comes to uncertainty?
So Agile was originally developed as a problem-solving set of meetings for groups of software developers to use, to deal with code and how they were dealing with code and how they were making new code and dealing with problems and issues and that coming up. And since then, it has evolved into a real project management strategy. And I think it's very applicable to the resource management world in that there are several main tenets of the agile process. And that is groups coming together at a certain time. It's very time boxed, first of all. And it relies on groups coming together at the beginning to decide what the priorities are. And then periodically, very periodically and very frequently during their time box, they are meeting again for just very short time periods to discuss what has happened, what any challenges are, and how they need to overcome those challenges. And then that whole process ends at the end of their time block by evaluating, were they able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish? If not, why not? And how can we do better in the future? And so there's some basic formula or format on the screen here. And in Agile, they call that time block, they call it a sprint, call it whatever you want. But what you will notice here is that the planning, you've got everybody working toward the same goal. And with the dailies, so that's in your sprint planning. Your daily stand-ups, and these honestly in true agile methodology are limited to like 15 minutes. So they're meant to be very short and very brief, not a very long meeting, because who needs another long meeting on their calendar, truthfully. But the benefit of a stand-up, and I've used this in my teams personally, and it's been very successful, is that every morning you have the opportunity for people to share what they accomplished quickly, what challenges are in their way, if others on the team can help them overcome that challenge, and you got that quick, it makes you move faster. And then you have a level of accountability. If I said I was going to do something by tomorrow, I've publicly said that. Now, when I come in the next day, I have to say yes or no that I did that or did not. And if I wasn't able to achieve what I said I was going to be able to achieve, how can we get there? What's the problem that we need to overcome? You'll see the term on here, backlog. Backlog is just basically things that weren't prioritized. And we reevaluate that very regularly, again, to align with our business needs, to align with our customer needs, to make sure we're working on the most impactful, most important, most prioritized things first. And so what I like about Agile and this is that it keeps us focused, it keeps us accountable, it keeps us moving forward, and it keeps us communicating. There's whole certifications on Agile and methodologies, yes. But I think if you can walk away from this particular session with an idea that communication is important, accountability is important, it will help you deal with uncertainty because you are working with the people that you need to work with closely, quickly, and efficiently, that it can really make work a lot less uncertain. It makes it obviously then more predictable, and it allows you to solve problems. So we're addressing that problem solving mindset more quickly, and it allows us to pivot when we need to. And it's a very visible pivot, and which is, I think, the thing that I like most about Agile is the visibility. It just makes what we're doing out in the open. There aren't as many surprises. And when there are surprises, we can deal with them together quickly.
Love it. Love it. And maybe just one word on the retrospective.
Yeah.
What's the idea here? I love, love, love retrospectives. So just a shout out.
Retrospective is the one step of Agile that gets skipped the most often. And Nora, as you said, I think is probably the most important. And that is at the end of your sprint, when you've finished what you said you were going to accomplish in a week. Let's say that was your sprint length was a week. It's getting together with your team and evaluating what went well and what didn't. And if something didn't go well, we need to fix it. And if something did go well, we need to keep it. Don't mess it. Don't mess with it. So the retrospective is just that opportunity to reflect on what you've done, and that's how we get better at what we do.
Yeah, 100%. And I just want to highlight from my experience, I've worked with many different organizations over 10 years. Usually, what gets skipped is also to celebrate what goes
Yeah.
well or achievements, right? So this is your moment to actually honor all the effort, all the, care that has gone into your project. And also, what's key here is to identify one or maximum of two action items. What are we going to do differently in our next sprint, in our next time box? And this is extremely effective. It's implementing that continuous improvement mindset. Like if you take the time regularly to just notice how things are working and how you could improve your teamwork, you will just get better every single week or sprint. And as a result, you'll unlock so much potential. And work becomes a lot more joyful as you really get to work, with all of your strength as a team.
And it also allows it to be more balanced because, again, everybody's sharing what they're doing.
Yeah,
And so, especially in the world of resource management, being able to balance out workloads is a huge deal for us. And, a team that I worked with in the past, I had some people who were working at 150% capacity, and I had people who were working at 50% capacity when I took over the team. And that unbalance was not only causing problems with the work being delivered on time, on budget, in high quality, but it was also just absolutely decimating the team's morale.
yeah,
And so being able to balance that in an open environment, it just lifts everybody up,
yeah.
because everybody is contributing meaningfully as equal as possible. It's never always perfectly divided, but it's better when you can have these kind of conversations.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Nice. And there is one question that I would love to share that's shared in the Q&A. Before I tap into that, Laura, any reflections from your side as to agile, or shall we move on with the question?
I agree with the key parts that Kim is saying as far as having regular touch points, holding accountability, take notes. As Kim and I have worked together for a long time. We're no longer the same company, but we were together for a while. And one of the things that she would always tell me, if you didn't write it down, it didn't happen.
Mhm.
So take notes and share the notes and like highlight in those notes who is responsible for what and when they said they were going to get it done by. That week-long sprint, as stuff that was shown in the screen, it's probably not, as resource managers and we're dealing with portfolios of projects, probably not realistic for us to do a daily stand-up with every single project or with every
Mhm.
single person that we're helping stuff. But
Right.
take that as the general concept
Mhm.
and find a schedule that works for you, and find those topics of conversations and agenda that work for you to be able to create that accountability, that transparency, those retrospectives, that planning ahead, and stuff. And so take the concept and apply it.
Mm, nice. Absolutely agree. Yes. Great. We're coming to the last few minutes, so I would love to very quickly share that question with you and do a quick round of whatever pops into your minds. The question goes like this. How do you deal with differing priorities and opinions from senior stakeholders? As an example, our sales director and delivery director often have conflicting thoughts, so it can be confusing on which direction to go when looking at priorities. Brilliant question. Very practical. That's life.
I want Kim to start, but I also want to just say, because whoever wrote a book like posted this anonymously, but I also just want to say I'm really sorry that you're in that that you're in that situation. But I want Kim to answer first.
Oh, I was going to let you go first on this one because it is a tough one.
That
Um,
one.
I mean, so if you've got two competing priorities, my initial reaction to you is one, if neither of those people is your line manager, talk to your line manager. if one of them is your line manager and one isn't, talk to your line manager and let them know, hey, this person has a different set of priorities. I need to make sure I'm clear in serving my stakeholders and serving my customers. So I'm letting you know, sometimes in writing, that this is what's going on so that, you know, I work for you. I've got to know what's the right thing to do. And sometimes it takes a little bit of judgment in looking at, okay, this person's asking me to do X, this person's asking me to do Y. What's the business priority? What are the stated goals in the company? And then sometimes a little personal judgment comes in to justify, I did Y because it is leading toward accomplishing this goal of the company. So again, I think this actually ties back to Laura's point of follow the data. What's the data tell you? What's in the data could be the business KPIs. So, you know, again, open lines of communication with your manager, so important. Open lines of communication with all of your stakeholders, very important. Following the data, making sure that you're working toward achieving the business goals is really important.
Yeah.
Laura, feel free
I
to
would, yeah,
contradict
no,
or add in yours.
I agree. I agree with those coming from if one of them is your reporting line manager or go to your reporting line manager. However, also if you are all colleagues, and so all of you are, say maybe you're the director of resource management or director of operations, and you're needing to partner with these two other directors. Then fall, yes, I was going to say fall back on the data. What is the data saying? And look at the business priorities. What is going to be best for the business? I often, my previous team would make fun of me and they would say, you have all these isms. So one of the other things that I would constantly remind is what's best for the business, what's best for the people, what's best for the projects. And that is not in a hierarchical order. Any of those can take priority over the other at any time. It really is about looking at them holistically and stuff. So when you have competing opinions, competing priorities from other stakeholders, keep yourself grounded in the data, keep yourself grounded in what is best for the people, the projects, the business, and bring all of you together. As you can really, this is where, you know, your leadership skills and those unique skills that I talked about interpersonal and data can really come together to lead that discussion and bring everything transparently to light and say, look, we need to come to an agreement, all of us, as if here are my recommendations, and lead that, and you know, in a sense, sometimes take that leadership charge of here's the recommendations and this is the direction I go to and here is why, and you know, allow them to then react and respond to you.
Nice. Yes, my inner clock is ticking. Our time box, our lovely time box together is coming to an end, unfortunately. So maybe a warm invitation to anyone listening in with more questions or more curiosity around this topic or others. Also, feel free to connect. It's definitely all about building up a strong community amongst us. So I can only recommend reaching out to Kim and Laura on LinkedIn, connect with them. They're very awesome and generous humans. So that's also something we can do after today's webinar. Or just join the next webinar with these two lovely panelists. So for now, I would love to thank you, Kim and Laura. Thank you for bringing your experience, your perspectives, and very generously sharing your time, your energy, and being such good role models, I would say, in you know, really bringing openness, vulnerability, and a lot of care to our webinar. So thank you.
Thank you, Nora.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh.
Yes.
Just a
Yeah.
quick shout out to our next webinar. We will be diving into an intriguing topic. I'm really excited for that one. Resource managers' career paths. So, what can this beautiful role become? What are different trajectories, career paths, and challenges and opportunities that come along? So, feel very warmly invited to join us in July on the 15th of July. We'll be having our next LEAP webinar. And for now, thank you to you, Kim and Laura. Thank you for everyone who has been with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I can see a lot of thank yous in the chat too, which is beautiful. So thank you for all of your energy. It's been wonderful. And to wrap up, I will play this lovely energetic tune again. So hopefully you'll have a beautiful rest of your day wherever you are in the world.